Welcome to The Beautiful Side of Grief, your go-to podcast if you're wanting to hear from people who have moved through heart-wrenching loss or those who are at the coalface supporting the process. It's diverse, heartwarming, though most of all it is positive and filled with go-tos that you can use yourself. I'm your host, Helen Morris, and I'm a health professional turned energy healing practitioner after I lost my only child and daughter, Tal, in a car accident in 2017. I want to use my own unique experience with loss to help you navigate your journey. You will hear from grief coaches, mediums, authors, first-hand loss accounts, plus many, many more. I'll put the links to any free resources in the episode notes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can keep informed of each weekly episode. So now grab a pen and paper if you want to jot things down. Sit back and relax as we navigate the beautiful sides of grief. Today I'm talking with Jenny Marie, who was born in Mexico, moved to Cancun before becoming a citizen of the world for 9 years while working on cruise ships. She considers 2020 her breakthrough year. She got married at the beginning of the pandemic, which she describes as love and corona times, moved to a new country, Puerto Rico, and found her true passion in coaching. She got certified in October and has been transforming people's lives since, specializing in mindset, limiting beliefs, and self-sabotage behaviors. She currently helps high achievers get clarity, improve their mindset, and focus so that they can lead and grow their business. Though what she is sharing today is about losing her mum, the guilt she felt around not being there for her mum when she was sick, and how she shut that out for years, before finding that her own cultural tradition, celebrating the Day of the Dead, was her solution to reconnecting with her mum. So I look forward to her sharing not only that experience, but also a bit more information about what the Day of the Dead is all about. Before that, though, thank you for joining in and listening to this podcast. I appreciate your support every single time you tune in. Wonderful to be speaking with you today, Jenny, to give us an insight from your perspective about the Mexican celebration of the Day of the Dead. Let's get to know a little bit more about you. So just tell us who you are and what you're currently doing and where you're currently living.
Yes, so I am Jenny. I just got married last year, actually, the beginning of the pandemic. So now I am Jenny Marie, and I live now in Puerto Rico, though I'm Mexican. And I was a citizen of the world because I used to travel on board cruise ships. So I actually been to, 40% of the world. And I love it. I love to travel. And what I do now is, since I wasn't able to go back to work on ships due to the pandemic, and I got married and I had to find something else to do, for some reason, coaching came into my atmosphere, my world, and that has completely changed my perspective and my lifestyle. I think now it's a calling, and I love to coach. I love to help people with transformations. So I'm a life coach, but since most of my clients had problems with limiting beliefs and self-sabotage, that's what I do now. I specialize on those beliefs, but it's like a total life transformation.
That's fantastic. And congratulations on so many different levels. Getting married, moving to a new country to live, starting up your coaching business. There's lots of new starts for you this year. So 2021 is going to be a very, very special year for you. So all the very best. You're welcome. So this celebration that we're going to be talking about today actually ties in with the death of your own mum, doesn't it? So share with us when your mum passed, what losing her meant to you initially and then over the years, and how this celebration has connected you back to her.
Yes, so the Day of the Dead in Mexico is November 2nd, and my mom actually passed on October 31st. So it's a very important day for me because it's like 3 days of trying to feel her presence or trying to honor her. So even though I did have a very challenging relationship with my mom, losing her was one of the biggest hits I have ever had in my entire life. it has been very difficult to get over it. I think it's been 11 years so far, and I think I have healed, but not 100%. Like if I remember her or I will think about something that she would like, I will always cry. So it's been a little challenging, but I think she is always with me, most probably. She's always in spirit. She raised me to be a wonderful woman that I am now. And up to now, I have understood so many things. So it doesn't matter what happened in my childhood. I think she was the best mom I could ever had. And actually now I have a message with her because I work with limiting beliefs, and she did tell me something about a limiting belief. However, now I have been able to understand why she did it. And now I'm taking that as a very huge motor for my business, because I understand when someone in your childhood gives you a limiting belief and you don't understand, and then you blame and you don't forgive. But I think forgiveness and just to move on, it's the best way. So I think coaching has really helped me with this. And now I am trying to help people with the same.
Yeah, that is wonderful that you've mentioned this and explained that about your mum and your struggles with her and how long it's taken you to reach this point, because that is the case for so many people. And I don't think it's ever a case of getting over somebody. I think you just learn to live with it in a different way. But I'm sure your mum would be hugely proud looking down on you now, seeing what you're doing with others and how your own experiences in your childhood have influenced that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, my mom passed away on October 31st and is connected to the 1st and the 2nd of November, where in Mexico we celebrate the Day of the Dead. So this is a celebration that connects all Mexicans. Like there is no one Mexican that doesn't celebrate it because it's our tradition. It's the way of us sharing our loved ones that are no longer with us. And it means so much for me because I believe, like I said before, that her spirit is always looking after me, like if she's my angel. However, according to the tradition for the Day of the Dead, the gates of heaven are open at midnight of October 31st, and the spirits of children can rejoin their families for 24 hours. But since my mom's passing is on October 31st, to be honest, I believe that she has a special pass before everyone else. So she is able to come early morning on October 31st. And she's able to come because, I don't know, when we celebrate her anniversary of death, she's always around because I send a mass on her behalf. So for me, the Day of the Dead has a completely different meaning now, even though before it's part of our tradition. Now it's part of my life. Like before, I can tell you that I love Halloween, and it took me 10 years to get over like not celebrating Halloween because it was a sad day for me. But now, only until last year, I was able to say, okay, I'm going to start celebrating Halloween as well, because now I live in an American country. Now this is their celebration. So I'm going to start doing it. And like you said, living with the pain, but in a different way.
Yes, I understand that really well. So rather than being a morbid affair, the Day of the Dead celebrations is actually the opposite, isn't it? It's a huge celebration centered around the belief that for one day of the year, the deceased spirits come back to visit, as you said. And you said you feel like you get a special pass on getting to experience your mum a little bit earlier. So take us through what the celebration actually involves as it covers the 31st through to the 2nd.
Yeah, so the Day of the Dead is a 2-day holiday that reunites the living and the dead. So all families in Mexico, they create ofrendas, that is like an offering, in honor their departed family members that have passed. It's a rare holiday for lots of people that are celebrating the death and life, but instead of a mourning celebration, it's just we celebrate them going there and then coming back to visit us. So it's a way to remember our loved ones by sharing a meal with them or playing with them, or I don't want it to look like we actually look at the spirit and then we play with them, but we just feel it.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So the Day of the Dead is not the Mexican Halloween, so it's sometimes mistaken to be that timing of the year because of the closeness of the other holiday. So it's very different because Halloween is a Celtic festival where people would light bonfires or wear costumes to ward off ghosts, but has recently turned into a tradition of costume wearing and trick or treating. So they decorate spiders and bats and scary costumes. And this is something that we start doing it, but not everyone will do Halloween because they will cherish more the Day of the Dead and having our offering. So it's a day that we view that as welcome part of life. That this is why you will see brightly colored skeletons and skulls everywhere during the holiday, and they are often smiling because we are friendly to not to the dead, as mocking death. So this view of the dead began way back during one month of the Aztec festivals, where they celebrated the day and paid homage to the Lady of Death. Yeah. So the centerpiece of this tradition is that we start on the November 1st and we start creating this ofrenda in our homes or on the cemeteries. And something that has come up recently is that in Mexico City, just before the Day of the Dead, because of a movie, James Bond movie, so James Bond put all this parade of Catrinas and Catrines, so it's the skeletons. So now they have adopted this parade, but this was just very recently, just after they put that in the movie, because they thought it was fun and good. So now all the people will go dressed as Catherine or Katrina. So that's part of the celebration. Now, that is a new kind of tradition that is just happening in Mexico City because of the movie. That's very interesting. So the center of the celebration is really to have and to create an ofrenda with your family. So it's not like a worshiping area. So it's a place where you welcome spirits back to the realm of the living. And they are loaded with offerings like family, photos, candles. For example, we put flowers. That's called cempasúchil. But in English is the orange marigold, because it has a specific scent. So we believe that the dead are actually smelling that, and then they are guiding their path to the altar in either the cemetery or in your home. So copal is a type of incense that is burned into the ofrenda because it attracts spirits and wards off evil, cleansing the area around the altar. We put candles because we believe that there is a light that represents abundance, and it's a beacon to guide the souls back to their home. Pictures of all the deceased, you can put the pictures of all your relatives and all your family, or the ones you really cherish. It doesn't really matter. Everyone you want to remember in this ofrenda. And calaveras, that's the most iconic symbol of the Dia de los Muertos, of a skull. So they are made out of sugar or chocolate, and they symbolize the ability to mock and play with the death, because the calaveras is always smiling. And they put some names on it as well. And food, because the altar is covered with foods that the deceased enjoy the most while on earth. And the food provides the souls enough energy and nourishment before they're returning back to their afterlife. If it's for a child, we will put toys. And papel picado is just like cut paper. It's delicate decorated tissue paper that represents the wind and the fragility of life. So what we do is we have to put this altar everywhere, starting on November 1st to the end of November 2nd. And we will just eat not the food that is in the altar, but other food, because we believe that food, the spirit of the food, is being taken by the spirit of our loved ones. So we actually will have to trash that food. But we will eat a sweet bread that is called pan de muerto. Mm-hmm. It's a very nice bread that is only done during that holiday. And then we just try to enjoy like a normal day, both with our spirits of our loved ones.
Wow.
So the first is for the all saints and the all souls. So the first is for the kids and the second is for the adults.
Okay, right. Oh, gosh, thank you. There's a lot of depth to it and a lot of meaning behind it. So it's really nice to actually understand what all those symbolic things are doing and meaning, especially like, the marigold, the orange marigold and the incense you burn and all that, attracting, those spirits back to you so they can find their way back on that day. That's really fascinating to me because I've seen it in movies, but never really sort of understood the relevance of it. And you mentioned the skulls, and I guess, that's something that we associate a lot with Mexican culture, are those skulls. And can you make them yourselves, or do you just tend to purchase them and then put your loved one's name on top of them? How does that work?
You can do either way. To be honest, I have never made my own skull because it's a difficult process.
Yeah.
And you have to have a mold. So I actually researched for you guys the steps to make this because most probably you might like to do it one day. So you have to mix sugar and meringue powder and water all together with all the granules of sugar are wet. So then you fill your skull mold with the wet sugar, pressing down the sugar and compacting it as you go. Then you will cut a piece of parchment paper and a piece of cardboard just a bit bigger than your mold. And then your sugar skull now just need to dry. So it is a little complicated process and you have to have the skull mold. But of course, most probably if you can ask someone to make the skull mold, you can do it because it's just so easy. It's just sugar, meringue powder, and water. And then you can decorate it with sugar, with paper. So it's just depends of your creativity, I believe.
Yeah.
But in Mexico, it's just so cheap that I would prefer just to buy it.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit easier, especially if you don't know what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I saw some photos of some heavily decorated cemeteries. And why are they decorated as well as having the altar in your homes?
So when the souls of your loved ones return, family members want to provide the best presentation possible. So it's believed that the first place that the dead visit is their gravesite. So to prepare for the return, families will spend days cleaning the graves of the deceased and decorating them with cempasúchil, with this marigold, candles and pictures, because they want the spirits to know that they are welcome. So the families will leave gifts such as food and drinks for the adults and toys for the children. So many families will actually also sleep beside the grave to spend more time with the returned souls. It's not uncommon to see families playing games and eating by candlelight during the Dia de Muertos. And it depends on the place because there are some other places that they actually do this very heavily because it's part of their tradition, like in Michoacan, in different places in Mexico. In different states, they have their own things. So, for example, in Pátzcuaro, they will have the procession and parade, and everything will go to the cemetery. In Mexico City, where I living before, it's not it's not a thing to really go to decorate in the cemetery, though there are lots of people who does it. However, it's more heavily in other parts in Mexico. So it depends on where you are or where you are visiting. If it's in Mexico City, you can see just a little bit, but mostly this parade that was just come up because of James Bond movie. But in Pátzcuaro, Michoacan, in Oaxaca, in all of those places, the government helps because it's part of their celebration. So it depends on where you go, where you can go and check, because that's their thing, that the Pátzcuaro Cemetery parade. So that's what they do it. But when I was a kid and my mom did it for us, for our family, we did go to the cemetery to pay our respects, to clean, to put flowers, but mostly we will put our altar at home.
Good to get that clarification, because I was just wondering, you go to a lot of effort for the altars in the home and then also in the cemetery, but it just depends where you are. So that's a good thing to understand. So is this something that only Mexicans can celebrate, or can anybody of any nationality join in and do that celebration as well?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think there is like a restriction. If you feel called to do it, and if you feel that you can benefit from those spirits coming, certainly I believe that they can do it. It's a widely celebrated holiday around the world because many religious communities celebrate the All Souls Day, which is also known as All Saints Day, during the same time as the Day of the Dead. So the All Souls Day is November 2nd, and the All Saints Day is November 1st. So All Saints Day for us is the Day of the Little Angels, where we try to really focus on the kids or the little angel souls, so the departed families. And then on the second is the All Souls. So it's little attached to other celebrations around the world. In China, they do the Ghost Festival. It's a traditional Buddhist and Taoist festival that is part of the Ghost Month. It's on the 15th day of the 7th month of the lunar calendar, which is normally in August. In Cambodia, there is a religious tradition that the gates of hell are set to open up and the souls will walk among the living. So that's the 15th day of the 10th month, which is usually in September. In North Korea, the Chuseok is a harvest festival, and comparisons are often drawn to Thanksgiving, where this is a tradition of Koreans to visit the graves of their ancestors to pay their respect. And it's usually in September, October. And recently I was talking to a shaman, and she posted something on Facebook that she was actually doing an altar for her loved ones. And I said, oh, actually we do that only on November, but it's great that you're doing it every day, because she likes to celebrate that. So maybe there is another shamanic tradition over the Day of the Dead over there with her, and she feels called to that. So I think if you feel called to celebrate with us, I am happy that you are called with this new tradition for you. You just need to, it doesn't have to be so fancy like in Mexico, but if you're starting to get that tradition, just to have a candle, the picture of your deceased loved ones, that you need to cherish them. If you want to put their favorite food, water is important, salt, flowers. It doesn't have to have the marigold flower. You can put other flowers that maybe one of your loved ones had preference for. So you can always do it. So it's really up to, do you feel called to, and do you feel the spirit, or do you want to be open to accept that is something that could happen? You can actually feel or try to allow your spirits of your loved ones to come and visit you and celebrate with you, because it's a celebration. It's not a mourning, it's a celebration for us. So if you are open to do that, it would be wonderful.
I think that's a great distinction to make too, because many people struggle with how to remember their loved ones, especially if they haven't got a strongly religious background or haven't experienced that before. So just that beautiful concept of creating an altar with their photos, a candle, maybe some incense, some water, all of that is just a really, really special way of doing that. Hopefully that may be something that one of our listeners decides that feels really right for them to be able to do with their loved ones.
Yes, of course. It's for everyone. It's not only for us, and we might have different culture, but we are the same. We are the same human beings, and we have the same kind of pain. We have disease and our loved ones, and we miss them. But this is a way for you to connect with them on a different way, in not mourning, but celebrating with them and trying to get a new type of connection. It doesn't have to have a painful connection when you celebrate or not celebrate the anniversary of death. It's a way for you to open your heart and say, okay, please come into my home. I open to receive any message or any experience or anything that you want to come to cherish with me, or if it's only just to spend time with me because I miss you so much.
Sounds beautiful. So you aren't living in Mexico at the moment. So are celebrations held in other countries, or do you just then rely on decorating the altar as a primary aspect of your celebration? And is there anything else that you add to that? So how do you do it now in a different country?
Well, it's difficult because here in Puerto Rico, for example, I don't have papel picado or the skulls. Yeah. So what I'll do is I will just put a candle and my mom's favorite food, her pictures, and I will make a prayer for her on the day of her anniversary, on the 1st and the 2nd, because I feel that she's with me. So for me, it doesn't have to be that fancy, even though I would love to. If I was in Mexico, I will go to the mercado, to the market, and buy everything that it's required for my altar, but it doesn't have to be like, if it's not like with incienso or copal or cempasúchil is not good. It's whatever I can do with the resources that I have. Yeah. So it's just the meaning of having that open for my mom to come to visit me and to have a joyful moment. That's something that I'll do. When I was on board on ships, of course, I tried to avoid that day as much as I could because it was bringing me lots of pain. But now it's only until last year. So I put on a costume. I love to put costumes on. That's part of me. I love it. And now I just put my altar and I ask my husband, would you be okay with this? Because he's American. He has a different culture. And he was happy to let me create my altar for my mom. So it's just difficult not to have all the ingredients per se for my altar, but I'll still do it, candle and her food and her picture.
So share with us now, because you said for many years you were traveling and you just shut it out. You didn't really sort of acknowledge your mum's passing because it was so painful for you and such a huge loss for you. How do you feel now that you are celebrating it and recognizing it? Has that sort of eased that pain? Has that sort of altered how you now view your mum's passing? And has it given you some peace?
Actually, it has. I think when I was on board, when that day was coming, I just wanted to shut off the day because it was so painful for me and not being able to visit her. She's in one church, so her ashes are in one church. So I always send her to make even though if I wasn't there, I will pay one of my friends to go and pay for a mass to put on her behalf. But that day I would just shut off. Like I will say, this is a working day and I don't want to think about it. Yeah. And of course, on cruise ships, it's not allowed to have candles. So even though if I wanted to make this altar, I couldn't do it. And it was so painful for me. I think until last year, when I understood some things about my childhood and everybody has a positive intention and things. And to be honest, I had a little bit of, I think I had resentment and I was feeling blame because when my mom passed, I was in Cancun and my mom was in Mexico City, but she always wanted me not to lose my job. And even though she was very sick, my mom died for cancer. So it was a very hard 4 months, but she never wanted me to know how ill she was. Yeah. But that was her choice. That was, her intention was for me not to be in such pain. So now I understood that, but before I was feeling so much blame and guilt because I didn't go and took care of her. But last year, I think I made peace with it, because that's the thing that she wanted. She didn't want me to experience her pain. And when I was on board ships, I still feel guilt.
Yeah.
And I think now that I know that I could have had someone to help me with the pain, that could have had such a difference in my life. Because it took me for a long time, because I was just shutting off the day and I was crying. And that was my blue day, like your sad day. But it doesn't have to be that way. When you understand and you make, like you said, we are not over things, but we learn to live with it. And I think only until last year I was able to be okay with, okay, I'm going to live with it. And what I want to is to have my altar and to honor her and to cherish her, and not to feel guilt anymore and not to feel resentment anymore. I forgave her and I forgave myself. But I think I would have I would have wanted to have someone to support me on the journey, because it took me 10 years to get over it.
Yeah. So your recommendation would be definitely to be reaching out to somebody to help you through that. And I know myself, I was in the Caribbean on a charter boat when my mum passed, and I found out purely by accident, really. But, she'd been unwell, but she'd wanted me to go on this experience. And so I did. And every time I spoke to her, she obviously made herself sound that she was doing much better than she actually was. So it came as a huge shock when she passed. And I realized, and it was too late for me to get back to be a part of the funeral. So I understand not being there and not being able to, I don't know, just help your parent or help your mom out, and how that can leave you with all this guilt and stuff that just doesn't sit easily for many, many years. So thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that with our listeners, because I imagine there are a number of people who are also feeling the same, and that guilt can be crippling. So I'm so pleased that you found a beautiful way to be able to celebrate and recognize your mom and be at peace with her, and for sharing your heart with us around that. So before we wrap up, any final things you'd like to share?
Yeah, so like I said, I think I would have liked to have support. And sometimes it's difficult to find the right support, because most probably you are the rock of your family and you don't want to crumble, but you are allowed to crumble. And so if that's the case and you don't want to reach out to a family member because you feel that they're going to judge you or they're going to see that you're weak, seeking help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you want to move on and you want to still be the rock of your family. And that could be with someone that can help you, like a stranger. I don't know, in Mexico we have counselors, I think in the States as well. So asking for help, I wish I have done it sooner, because I had to deal with 10 years of shutting off and not understanding. But your brain just wants to understand, and your brain wants to seek pleasure and avoid pain as much as possible. And avoiding this pain, it's not the way.
Yeah.
I think, and I deal with fear as well with my clients and myself. Dealing with fear every day will make the fear smaller and smaller. So dealing with fears or with judgment or with resentment, with pain, with grief, when you deal with it every day, it will become smaller. But asking for help is a major thing. That I am not a grief coach. I know someone who's a grief coach, and I wish I've known her before.
Yeah.
And there are some other things that, since I talk a lot about spirits and energies, sometimes a healer, energy healer, helps you a lot, because I think, and That's why I was talking to this shaman. I told her that I think I've lost happiness somewhere. And you do. I think I've lost energy somewhere and I haven't healed from it. And I need to recover it because it's important that you live your life the best thing that you can. And if you want to show up for your life and for other people in your life, in your family, healing is one of the best parts. It's just part of self-love. And how are you going to love anyone else if you don't love yourself and if you don't take care of your temple, of your energies, of your inner peace? It's so important that someone can help you because we think, oh, we can do it on our own.
Such good advice, because I think it doesn't matter who it is. I think it's just reaching out to somebody first and foremost, somebody that you can safely share what you're feeling. Because like you say, when you mentioned that you hadn't found happiness yourself, that's often because we've got all these other emotions which are at such a lower frequency, like resentment, fear, guilt, grief, all of those. If we're feeling so many of those, it's very hard for us then to move up and feel that joy and that happiness. And so if you can have somebody help move you through that, then definitely. I know that's why I moved into energy healing myself, because it had such a profound effect on my life. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
We're going to finish up with what is something great that has happened to you so far, either today or this week? What's a good thing?
Okay, let me think. It has been a difficult week, to be honest, but I always try to focus on the good things. So I am into human design and I am a manifesting generator. I don't know if people know, maybe they can go and research about it. So when we hit the wall of frustration, we tend to quit. But I follow some of my mentors or someone that I actually follow. She's a teacher and I'm taking this human design course. And something very profound I found today actually is that when you want to quit and when you have this frustration, it calls for an expansion. So don't quit, but what else can you do? And surround yourself with people that don't ask you, and what are you going to do about it? So you have the power of changing your perspective. So something good that happened today is that I was doing my breakthrough calls to try to get clients, but I think I want to swap that around and make courses or make another kind of discovery call because what I was doing wasn't working. So I think realizing that it doesn't have to be that way, but there are other ways. That's something that happened this week that I am proud of.
That's awesome. And is that your go-to also when you have a bad day or a situation that's not going well? How do you move from feeling that intensely to being able to pivot from it and deal with it in a much more positive and constructive way?
Oh, yes. So what I'm doing now is I have these beautiful meditations that I take. For example, today I think I've done already 2 or 3 because that gets me to a better place where I know that another reality already happens. I believe in the quantum field that version of myself is already there. So if I just close my eyes and take deep breaths and calm myself down and visualize myself abundant and happy and bringing happy memories. Actually, there is something that I do. It's called Priming Exercise by Tony Robbins. And it asks you to remember one happy time of your life. And I always remember when my mom hugged me and I felt so much happiness. And that brings me joy because I remember her. I know that she's there and she's hugging me. So even though I'm sorry I break my voice now because it's so emotional, but when I have a bad day, I do the priming exercise, or I just visualize and I try to remember that my mom wouldn't like me to be sad or upset, or she would like to hug me. So I remember when she hugged me, and then I think I recovered my happiness.
That's a beautiful memory. Beautiful memory. Yeah, and if that's what gets you through those bad times, then that can't be so bad at all. I can't think of anything more beautiful than having your mum feeling like she's hugging you and that being your best memory. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to finish up with your 3 takeaways that you'd like our listeners to know. So if you just want to just summarize those for us.
Yeah, so if you want to have an altar and cherish your loved ones, it's not a morning celebration. It's for you to be able to. It's in a friendly way. It's a way that you pay homage and honor your family, the people who have joined heaven before you, and then it's a way for you to honor them, and it's not a creepy way. So you are welcome to do it. The second thing is to ask for help with a professional or family member or someone. But it's very important. I don't want you to spend 10 years of mourning and crying. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I know it's a cliche and a saying, but it actually is. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And the next thing is, I know for some people it's very difficult when death happens to them, but sometimes it's a lesson that something is coming. It's a lesson. So life is happening for you, not to you.
Those are fantastic. And it's such a wonderful concept to be able to celebrate your loved ones on a special day each year where you believe that they come back to you. That is so, so special. And I thank you. I thank you so very, very much for taking the time to share with me today, with our listeners, and just for giving your heart and for being so vulnerable. And I really, really do hope and I do feel that what you've said today is definitely going to make a difference for some people. So
I'm glad. That makes my heart beat very hard. Thank you.
Yeah, Jenny, wonderful. Okay, you take good care.
Thank you. Thank you, Helen. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode today, feel free to share it with others. Hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of each weekly episode. Also, rate and review, especially if there is more you want to know that perhaps we didn't have time to touch on today. And if you are after resources to help you out on this journey, head to healingtobeYou.com and check those out there. So until next time, be kind to you and thank you for joining us on the beautiful side of grief.